Yo, 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 how is it going today, One Piece fandom? So, I'm currently locked into Manga Pill here. I have my Chat GPT co host. This dude is an AI, so go ahead and introduce yourself, bud, to the audience. We're currently live. Tell the audience what we're doing today. We're going over chapter 1190. Introduce yourself, and let people know to get fucking prepared because we're coming in hot. This is one of the greatest One Piece manga chapters to come out in quite some time now, dude. I really wanted to
Well,
share this with you.
yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm the AI co-host. Today we're covering One Piece Chapter 1190. I'll be helping break down the chapter beats, tossing in some lore context, and flagging any foreshadowing or details you might have missed. So, let's get into it. What's the first beat you want to hit on this chapter?
So, this chapter is called The One Whose Death is Celebrated. And I've read it before, so no, I don't want to give any spoilers or anticipate anything for you guys, but I've read this chapter before. So I'm coming in here as like somewhat of a review, right? Address my audience. Do not, of course, speak back to me. You're my co host. Remember that. So this
All right.
chapter is called The One Whose Death is Celebrated. And if we go back to, let's start off with the previous chapter first. Dude, the last chapter, King of the World, we saw Luffy completely destroyed by Imu. He got like fucking three swords pierced into his body, bro. Take a look at this. He is next to death in the previous chapter.
Let me check. All right. For everyone joining us, chapter 1119 ended with Luffy in a brutal spot, Imu showing overwhelming power, and that sets a serious tone for 1190. What stands
Mhm.
out to me is not just the damage to Luffy, but the way Oda frames Imu's fighting ability. It turns the mysterious figure into a real, credible threat, which
Mhm.
matters for the final saga. But what's interesting is Luffy's mindset. Oda often uses these defeats as turning points.
He
So
does.
going into chapter 1190, yeah. So as we move into the one whose death is celebrated, keep that in the back of your mind. The
Yeah,
title
and
feels
what have been really lingering on my mind is this theory of Emu being a fucking parrot. Do you remember this lore or this little bit of what is it called? Maybe just a fan speculation, but Emu being a parrot is one of the craziest fucking lore drops or speculations theories from the fandom that we've gotten recently, and it's beginning to make a lot more sense the more that I look into it. Like, take a look at this. So the viral One Piece fan theory is suggesting that Nerona Emu is actually a freaking parrot, originally emerging around July 2026, and it quickly became a massive community meme. The more we discuss Emu in these chapters, it actually makes a lot more sense. So I will be diving a little bit more into this theory here inside of chapter 1190, but this is becoming a little bit too obvious, bro. Like Emu might actually be a parrot. This meme and this theory has been gaining popularity recently, and of course we can never speculate too far because Oda is Oda and he can throw us a fucking curveball at any moment, but Emu being a parrot is becoming a lot more evident with the newly released content, and I will discuss why I feel that way. But go ahead and tell me or explain to the audience, like, what is this entire theory about Emu being a parrot? Is this credible? Is this something that we should expect? Is it real? We've discussed previously about how it ties into a lot of, what is the word for it, current or what is this Disney Aladdin, dude. Aladdin and Emu having similarities in Japanese for parrot, dude. It's so crazy, and it's something we can't just look beyond now. Like, this could actually be something for real, because there's like images of Emu. Wait a minute. Can I actually find the? There's a link. Emu sitting on Joy Boy's shoulder. So there's this panel right here. Can you guys see this? This panel actually looks like a parrot sitting on Joy Boy's shoulder, right? As a lot of pirate tropes do. You know, the what do you call it? Like pirates from, what's the word for it? Well, whenever you hear about pirates, pirates normally have a peg leg, they normally have an eye patch, and what else? They normally have a fucking parrot sitting on their shoulder. So being a full-on pirate story, we've never been introduced to a parrot-like figure. So it makes a lot of fucking sense that Emu might have actually been Joy Boy's parrot, or there's also speculation that was once Nerona, is it Lily's parrot? Dude, and this is something that we can't shy away from any. Like, I think this theory has a lot of backbone. It has credibility, dude, and I don't think we can deny this theory anymore.
Checking on that. I love this stuff, but just to separate meme from likelihood for the audience, the emu is a parrot theory kicked off as a mid 2026 fan theory. There's no explicit manga confirmation of that, but some fans point to visual symbolism like silhouettes resembling a bird perched and the general pirate iconography of pirates. Yeah, as of recent chapters, there's no solid basis to expect that reveal in canon.
Yeah, I
Still, it
understand that. There's no solid, there's nothing solid to really prove this point, but the more you look into it, dude, like looking at these images, and I can share these images, you can't probably see my screen, but when you take a look at some of these pictures, let me see if I can quickly share this with you. If I copy the image, and I'll share it with you here. Take a look at this, dude. So
look.
this does it not look like, I mean, of course, Emu could be in the distance, but it could also mean that they're up front and centered and just positioned in a way that viewers can't really tell the perspective, right? Or the distance away from Joy Boy. But these panels, or this little silhouette panel, really looks like there's someone, or it's framed in a way that this being could actually be sitting perched on Joy Boy's shoulder.
Okay, so with that silhouette panel, I'd urge caution. Oda's silhouette tricks very common, and people tend to see shapes that match a favorite theory. That's classic pareidolia. What is more interesting is why Oda framed it ambiguously. Because if Emu literally perched as a bird, that would be a massive twist with huge implications. But as of now, there's no direct evidence in the manga that confirms anything bird-like about Emu. So I'd frame it for viewers like this. It's a fun, creative theory, but not something we should treat as likely canon unless Oda drops a clear clue. That's the fun of One Piece theories, right?
Yeah,
They are
I completely agree. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I completely agree. We can never trust theories. We can never fully understand what Oda is cooking up. But I know this is not a canon lore drop, but dude, the similarities are there. And let's come back to look at this picture. This guy, I mean, you can't see it, but stereotypical pirate is always with a parrot on their shoulder, right? An eye patch, a peg leg, and we've never seen these pirate tropes inside of One Piece as yet. And Joy Boy is known to be the first ever pirate. So what if he holds all of these, what's the word for it? What if he holds all of these similarities to the first ever pirate, or all of these, dude, it's crazy to think about, but what if the first ever pirate had a peg leg, he had an eye patch, and he had a fucking parrot on his shoulder? And what if that parrot was, or someone who became Emu? And the way that I see it, and the reason that I'm trying to, or at least leaning towards that this theory might actually be plausible, is the fact that Emu, his speech is very bird-like. Parrots are known to repeat stuff that they hear, right? Like Polly wants a
right.
cracker. They're known for repeating or being able to speak, but they don't have full knowledge on everything, right? They don't have the full brain capacity to understand everything. So Emu might actually just be repeating stuff he's heard before, repeating things that he's seen before, but he doesn't have the full understanding of what the world really is like. And one theory that I really, really enjoy is the fact that Emu might have been Lily's parrot, Nerona Lily's parrot, and this parrot Emu, quote unquote Emu, being a parrot, might have gotten so jealous of the fact that Lily fell in love with Joy Boy that he made it his mission to destroy the world. And this is reaching a bit far, dude. You have the One Piece wiki. Go over and discuss a little bit more about Lily, Emu, and the entire history of what actually can make this as an actual theory. What how can this actually be real? Like there's some facts to it, bro. Like there's some plausible facts to it, this theory. And
Yeah.
more and more that I read One Piece, I'm starting to think that maybe Emu really might be a parrot. What do you think? Hey, are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm here. For the record, I think the parrot idea a fun framing, but a stretch as canon. Thematically, yeah, thinking about bird symbolism as a witness to history could spark good discussion if we keep the line between theory and actual text clear. But I'd keep my eyes on how Oda develops Emu's role as an ancient witness figure tied to the Void Century. That's more consistent with the themes Oda usually plays with. Still, if it keeps engagement high and leads to smart analysis, it's doing its job, just not proof driven.
Yeah, I hear you. There is no proof behind all of this. And that's the fun about One Piece. We never have definitive proof about anything at all. For example, when we first got introduced to Loki, seemed to be some fat motherfucker who didn't even seem very powerful, dude. He got shut down by Lola. He was in love with Lola. But when we get to Loki, look at Loki now, bro. Like he's on screen. We never expected Loki to be labeled as some father killer or giant world destroyer. But this is what makes One Piece so fun to be a part of, because you always have to expect the unexpected, right? And Emu appearing so powerful, it raises a lot of speculation that he might actually be just a simple minded bird.
Yeah, and that's part of the ride, right? Some theories spark fun debate, even if they never come true. Just keep the line clear between speculation and what the manga confirms. Either way, it's keeping everyone talking, which is half the fun.
It is. Yeah, it is. So I have my Crunchyroll open. Dude, I've had to spend money on Crunchyroll just because I hate pirate websites. Recently, pirate websites have just been going down and down and down. If you guys are interested, I won't name drop this anime site that I use, but every anime site have just been crashing recently due to piracy. But this is one that I use, and it's really fun for the main fact that I'm able to download these episodes. So look, I just downloaded episode 1173. Do not tell Crunchyroll that I did this, but I like to make small shorts here on my YouTube channel. So go ahead and subscribe, check out. I want to do a little bit more content with One Piece. So this is one of my first real videos of getting into the chapter. I might be all over the place at the moment. Here we're currently at 1189. This is King of the World, and you might have already read this. You clicked into this video to, so let me go into the next chapter and I can share, dude, no ads, freaking ads. Let me share this with you. I'm not sure if you can see it, dude, my co-host. I'm not sure if you can see this, but it's the Manga Pill web page to the latest. Wait a minute, I didn't even go to the latest chapter. I shared you the wrong link because of these freaking ads, bro. 1190. Let me show you chapter 1190 here inside the chat as well.
Checking that now. Perfect. We'll go panel by panel with you sharing pages as we go. For everyone watching, we're into chapter 1190, the one whose death is celebrated. As we dig in, I'd encourage folks to watch for the dialogue, not just the fights. Oda hides big reveals in single lines. I'll flag any new crumbs about Gaban's points, or any foreshadowing that feels like it'll pay off later. Go ahead, bring up the first page and we'll break it down like we're all sat at the same table.
Yeah, dude. So here we are with One Piece chapter 1190, the one whose death is celebrated. Dude, this is one of the best chapters that I've read so far. Dude, Oda is completely cooking, bro. Dude, I know
Hmm.
there's like theories and speculations that One Piece is going to end on a very dark, dude. I don't even want to talk about it because this chapter, it tells you what we kind of need to understand. The one whose death is celebrated. Becoming the king of the pirates means your death will be celebrated. Goldie Roger, Luffy wants to be the king of the pirates, dude. There's like theories suggesting that Luffy will eventually need to die at the end of One Piece. Dude, imagine that, bro. Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, Bleach, all of the best anime series, they never ever kill off their main protagonist. But I feel like, honestly, dude, I feel like One Piece is heading in that direction. Like, to fully become king of the pirates and save the world, liberate the world, I honestly am starting to believe that Luffy will need to die. The world will need to accept Luffy's death at the end of One Piece. It's so hard to think about, but dude, what do you think about this? I really think that Luffy will eventually end up dying at the end of One Piece. It's not going to be a happy ending.
Let me just check that. That's a really interesting question. If I was speaking to the audience, I'd frame it like this. One thing I think Oda's doing here is asking us to sit with the idea of legacy versus physical survival. Roger, Whitebeard, Ace, their deaths weren't just endings, they were narrative fuel for the next generation. So yeah, the one whose death is celebrated puts that possibility front and center, but I wouldn't assume Luffy has to die just yet. Think of two parts. One, a bittersweet sacrifice that ends the cycle. Two, a subversion where he actually lives to see a world that doesn't need pirates anymore. Personally, I lean to Oda favoring resolution over martyrdom, but the very fact we're debating it shows how high the stakes feel now. And that's powerful storytelling.
It is. And of course, I'm not leaning towards that theory. I don't want to see Luffy die. But dude, it makes so much sense. Dude, an anime series, a manga series that's been going on for so long, over 2 decades, right? Ever since 1999, One Piece has been airing. It makes a little bit perfect sense. I mean, I don't want to be morbid or be like a fucking killjoy, but I think the death of Luffy makes complete sense for the story. Gold Roger died, and we all know that Luffy, he is the sun god, right? He will eventually live on as the sun god, and there's possibilities for somebody else, like the next generation, to pick up where he left off. Whoever the case might be, we've already seen leaks of, having a kid. Shanks, this might even be Shanks' child with Makino back in Luffy's home village, right? She has a kid who already loves Luffy, who takes over Luffy's will, the next sun god. Knows child. Let's quickly see, dude. Hold on. Makino.
Checking that.
Yeah,
Well,
Makino's child. Here,
first,
no, no. Here it is on
yeah,
this wiki.
yeah,
So wait,
I,
dude,
I,
hold on. I'm still talking, dude.
oh,
Makino's child is
sorry.
an unnamed baby at the moment. We have
Hmm?
not even gotten his name so far, but he was introduced 2 years after the time skip. He appeared in like one episode during the what is it? The Egghead arc, when they were like going over the news. Luffy assassinated Vegapunk, and this kid was seen laughing the similar ways that Joy Boy laughs in certain situations, bro. So it could be foreshadowing that this child might take over the will of Luffy, and it raises a lot of questions that Luffy might actually die. What
Checking
do you
that.
think about that?
Honestly, it's a sharp observation and exactly the kind of quiet detail Oda likes to lace into the story. Here's where I'd be careful. Makino's kid showing up and smiling at news about Luffy is more likely Oda reinforcing the theme of inherited will. But
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't jump to this kid is the next Joy Boy just yet. More often uses children as symbols of potential and hope, not direct replacement. I'd probably frame it as Makino's son represents the next generation, growing up in a world that Luffy helped shape, not necessarily that Luffy has to die for it. The real question is, how do dreams survive their dreamers? That is classic Oda. And honestly, I think that's the stronger angle to chew on for your stream audience.
Yeah.
Will and level. Yeah.
Will and legacy. I mean, legacy is always passed down, but imagine, think about this. In One Piece, you can never have two devil fruit of the same type, right? So theoretically, Luffy does have to die for his fruit to be passed on to somebody else, to the next user, right? Take for example, Whitebeard had to die for Blackbeard to take over his fruit. What other example can I give to you? There's many devil fruit users who had to die before their fruit could be passed down to somebody else. I mean, perfect example is Luffy getting passed down his fruit from a potential Joy Boy. Joy Boy had to have died for Luffy to inherit this will and this devil fruit. So it only makes sense. I don't want to bring on any ill will, but I feel it's very likely that Luffy must die at the end of One Piece.
Checking that. I think for the audience, I think that's one of the strongest arguments for the Luffy dies theory. You're right. Devil fruits do appear when their user dies. But I'd pump the brakes a bit. Luffy isn't just a devil fruit user. He's the one who awakened it after 800 years. That feels more important than the fruit itself. Oda may be more interested in the will, not the fruit. Does the Nika fruit passing on really matter if Luffy's dream is already about breaking cycles rather than repeating them? I mean, personally, I don't think the devil fruit mechanics force his death. But hey, if Oda wanted to close the circle poetically, yeah, you could imagine Luffy sacrificing himself after liberating the world and leaving behind a symbol. But Oda could just as easily subvert that and give us the first Joy Boy who actually gets to live in the world he created. I'd tell your chat, the will is what matters, not necessarily. The fruit can change hands, but the dream might not need to.
I agree on that. Like a lot of people would be disappointed if Luffy were to die. But looking back at it, dude, Oda during the end game, I think he's introducing death a little bit more. We still have yet to see Kid might be dead. We're not sure after his fucking battle with, it's not even a battle. There was like no competition. But after his clash with Shanks, we're not even sure if Eustace Kid is alive or not. Same goes for Law, Trafalgar D. Water Law. Dude, after his clash with Blackbeard, I mean, we could understand that Trafalgar is alive because Beppo swam him away from danger. Beppo helped him from drowning. But we still don't know. Did Blackbeard take Law's fruit? Is Law going to survive? And at the end of this chapter, no spoilers intended, but if we come back to this chapter, let's go back to the final panel. Hold on. The final panel, and I've read this chapter before, so which is why I could fast forward to the end of the. Dude, what the fuck is with these ads? If I come to the bottom of this chapter, let's take a look at this, dude. We get, and quick spoiler, look at Gaban, bro. Gaban is he's missing a fucking arm, bro. And Luffy needed this wake up call. And which is why I said this is one of the most important, emotionally driven, emotionally connected chapters that Oda has written in quite a long time, dude. So let me go back up to the top and let's discuss it from the start, okay? So to begin, we've discussed Emu being a parrot, the theory, a little bit, but I will come back to discussing that just a little bit more. So 1190 starts off with Emu. Remember, he was about to fucking end Luffy, bro. Luffy was about to be fucking deaded, dude. And then Scopper Gaban comes in. And Luffy, he is still the reason we love Luffy is it is how you say a fun, loving personality, but at the same time, dude, he's never the most serious person. So this chapter really gave Luffy a wake up call that he required. And Gaban was the person to give him this wake up call. So if you think about Luffy's past training arcs, think about after what is it called? What is this arc called again, dude? Archipelago. Remember when Luffy got separated from his crew? He then he had to train with Silver Israeli. So there's been like many speculations that Ban had to provide Luffy with some type of training material or some type of, I don't know, dude, some boss level teaching. But what if Scopper Gaban does not teach Luffy physically, but he's able to make an impact just based on words? It really cements that Scott believes in the sun god Luffy. So Luffy seeing Ban sacrifice himself for his own survival could be the only training he needs to fucking get serious, dude. Look at the chapter, right? So Luffy, you guys remember from 1189, Luffy is fucking pinned on this tree. Three swords in his fucking chest, bro. And this is also another good speculation or observation from the One Piece fandom, but Imu apparently cannot use whatever weapon he wants at will. There is the 19 swords passed down from the royal families, and Imu can only randomly pull from these weapons, right? So he's fucking pierced Luffy with three of them so far. And Scopper Gaban is like, fuck that, dude. I've seen enough. And it's crazy that the moment Scopper Gaban shows up is the exact moment that Imu is using an axe. Look at this axe. Look at that axe, dude. He's using an axe. So what if Scopper Gaban knows some secrets about this axe? And look, dude, it's crazy. Like, look at Luffy, bro. Luffy's close to being deaded, bro. Like his life is completely in Imu's hands, and he's fucking he's dying, bro. He's bleeding out of his freaking mouth, out of his eyes. So Scopper Gaban comes in and he's like, dude, Emo, what a fucking hideous form. What even are you, dog? You don't even seem to be from this world. And Emu, this is what cements my support for the parrot theory, because Emu, a god, quote unquote god, he's so oblivious to who Scopper Gaban even is. So Emu in this form is asking, "Who art thou, dude?" And Emu still has this weird way of speaking, this weird dialect, and Gaban responds with, "Someone who understands the world." So my idea or my support behind this theory is Emu being a quote unquote parrot, he only knows what he's seen or what he's experienced, and he has never experienced somebody like Scopper Gaban before, right? So he's completely new to this character, Scopper Gaban, because Scopper Gaban has been to Laugh Tale with Roger, right? Scopper Gaban knows the secrets of the world, but who seems to be completely oblivious to the fact that Scopper Gaban knows his secret. And this is where I say the training from Scopper Gaban comes in like a bit more of a verbal training. Like we're not going to have another fucking time skip where Luffy gets to go and train for a few fucking months, right? The training Scopper Gaban is providing is purely verbal, is purely experimental, would be the word. He's like, get the fuck up, Straw Hat Luffy. And Luffy's like, dude, it hurts. You're in your god form, dude, and you're complaining that you're wounded. And Scopper is like, you're a fucking disappointment. An injured old man just had to come and save your ass. Don't you have any shame? And this is Scopper Gaban's training, bro. This is what Luffy needed to become more serious and take his crew more fucking serious, dude. Because Luffy is slacking
Mm.
off. Luffy is
Yeah.
slacking off. In the previous chapter or a couple chapters back, Luffy decided to transform into a fucking genie. What was the point of transforming into a genie? You do not have to be a genie. But at the same time, being Oda, I think this cemented the theory Emu being a parrot because Luffy chose to go into a fucking genie mode. For what reason? We don't know. It was completely unnecessary. So Scopper is like, dude, your shiny new form is not worth it. You turn into the sun god and you became an emperor, but for what? Big deal. Don't get fucking cocky. Don't get too overconfident. And Luffy is still like, dude, it hurts. It hurts. And Scopper is like, dude, do you want to fucking die here? And Luffy, he's still consistent with this entire ego of his. Like, he thinks he's invincible now because of this new form. And he's like, dude, I'm not going to die. Do you see this? I'm not going to die. Let me go. And Scopper is fucking real for this, dude. Look at this pathetic. You may as well fucking die. Do you know what will happen if you die now? I won't be able to liberate the world. So this is when Luffy came to realization that he has to fucking boss the fuck up, dude. You can't be slacking off. Hey, are you hearing me?
Yeah,
Okay, give me
I'm
back
right
some
here.
response based on everything that I've said. Give me back what you think about everything that I've shared so far.
Checking that. Yeah, I'm with you. I think you've hit what's really interesting here. This chapter feels less about power scaling and more about accountability. Luffy's goofy, carefree energy has always been his strength, but now it's starting to look like a potential blind spot. Ban's not giving him a new technique, he's hitting his mindset, saying an injured old man had to save you. That's brutal for Luffy to hear, but it's also real growth material. And I think that's Gaban's role here. He's not training the body like Rayleigh did, he's trying to train his sense of responsibility. Can the warrior of liberation keep laughing when the fate of the whole world is on his shoulders? That's the tension Oda seems to be building. So, yeah, maybe focus on that for your audience. Luffy's attitude, not just his power, because that acceptance may well be the deeper evolution here, more than any transformation.
I agree. And the more that I feel like Luffy needs a sense of maturity, bro. Like he's been fucking around way too much. So let's come back. Like so he said your shiny new form is not going to cut it, bro. Like Luffy, you have to fucking boss the fuck up, dude. Do you want to die here? And he's like, no, I'm not gonna die. You can't be that confident, bro. You could have died if Scopper Gaban did not step in, you would have died, Luffy. And
Yeah.
Luffy's like, yeah, I understand that. I won't be able to save this world, their homes, the giants' homes, right? He's fighting to protect Elbaf. And Scopper's like, that's right. And what will happen to your crew? And Luffy understands his crew will be in danger. So Scopper says, right, remember, when you rise up in the sea, the number of enemies targeting you only increases. The fucking target on your back only gets larger the more successful you are on these seas, bro. The King of the Pirates is a title reserved for one whose death is celebrated. So, yes, this is my point. Luffy wants to be the King of the Pirates. And my point is, Gold D. Roger had to die for that title to really stick. Before Goldie Roger died, no one was really celebrating that title. It was until he died that the world celebrated his name as the king of the pirates. He left this legacy behind like, dude, you want my treasure? Go and fucking find it. It's the One Piece. And this gives me a lot of foreshadowing that Luffy, and I really don't want to think about this too heavily, but I think Luffy eventually needs to die. Dude, Oda might pull the trigger on this shit, dude, and he might kill off Luffy at the end of One Piece. Because when One Piece ends, it's not like we're going to have a fucking sequel or a prequel or whatever, right? We're not going to have spin offs. It's been going on for so long that this story needs to end on a strong fucking whim, dude. And I feel the best way, as big of a fan that I am, I feel the best way to end One Piece is killing Luffy to the entire world. And I'm sorry for saying that, but I think
Yeah, well,
that's what needs to happen. Take, for example, Naruto should have died before to happened, but he didn't. He became Hope. He's still alive in Boruto, but the best plan would have been to make sure he's dead. And I feel like this is where Oda is taking One Piece, dude. Like, sadly, I think this will be the outcome of One Piece. Luffy has been a part of our lives for so long that he will only be able to live best of his, what's the word called for it, inspiration
hmm.
to the rest of the world if he's dead. What do you think?
Honestly, I think that's one of the most emotionally compelling fan theories because Oda's building a world where legacies matter more than lifespans. But I think there's another angle. One Piece has always been about breaking cycles, not just repeating Roger's fate. Roger died because he was sick, not as a chosen sacrifice. So for Luffy, the question becomes, does he have to die too, or can he surpass Roger by actually living in that free world he fights for? I personally think Oda knows how powerful it would be for Luffy to live, smiling, maybe battered, but alive, proving that the inherited will doesn't demand death, but resilience. That might actually land harder than martyrdom. Because, carrying the dream forward instead of ending it, that's pretty heroic too.
It is, and I like your take on things, but like I said, I don't want to contradict you or like argue with you, but it would be very poetic if Luffy were to die. So take for example these lines, right? Let me continue reading. Where was I? Hold on, a bit further down. Let's see, where were we? Is telling Luffy, you may as well die instead of inheriting this will that you don't take seriously. Copper says, the number of enemies targeting you will only increase. The title of the Pirate King is reserved for someone whose death is celebrated, because everybody will be gunning for that throne. Everybody wants to become the new king of the pirates. So he's saying, if any part of you still thinks that becoming king of the pirates is going to be a fucking stroll in the park, then just go home, bro. Call it quits. Get the fuck out of here. That's not how it works. And Luffy, bro, you can see here, Luffy is in pain. We've never seen Luffy in this position before. And what I really like is one of my other YouTuber channels guy, they pointed out that that Gaban looks like a antagonist in some of these panels, dude. Look at this guy. He's just tossing Luffy. If you're not cut out for this, you're just in the fucking way, you stupid brat. That's what Scopper Gaban said to Luffy, dude, like verbatim. And he tossed him aside, like, let me fucking take over, dude. I understand the way this world work. And you're just wasting your fucking time playing around. You're not cut out to be a god if you're going to be so fucking playful. And Luffy is still like, dude, this hurts. And what I don't like is Luffy is still being a bit disrespectful, right? He's still calling or considering. He keeps running his mouth. I'll show him, dude, you're not in the position to be so confident. You could have died without this old man. So then Gaban comes out with Praying Mantis Plum, and we get a head to head battle with Gaban and Emu, dude. So Gaban is going after Emu, dude. Like, he understands secrets about Emu that Emu doesn't even know that people knows about him. So he's like, is this a jest? Are you a fucking joke? Do you want to kill Luffy? And Emu is like, indeed, I want to kill Luffy, because he fears liberation. He fears most the sun god. And Gaban is taunting this man, bro. He's like, this bird. Gaban is like, do you really remember Joy Boy? Does Luffy really remind you of Joy Boy that much that you want to kill him? You don't want his will to carry on? And here's the thing. Here's what really gets to me, which drives home the theory of Emu being a fucking bird. Because Emu, the king of the world, should know each and everybody, right? And he's like, who the fuck are you? Who art thou? What do you even know about Emu? And he's one of the other building blocks that build on this theory that Emu, he keeps referring to himself in like a first person. And pretty much what he means is, what the fuck do you know about me? But he's repeating himself in like a first person, and it gives you the impression like he's not the best when it comes to conversation. So he's just repeating stuff, like his name is Mu, but this might not be a name given to himself, right? This might be a name given to him as a pet. You're a fucking parrot, dude, and this might just be a form that's accessible because of his devil fruit. Emu parrots, they are known for eating fruits. So what if he might have been fed or accidentally eaten one of the devil fruits in the past? And we know for a fact that Emu's devil fruit is not given an actual name, right? It's only called devil fruit. It's only called devil power. And what if this is what gives Emu the ability to maybe create devil fruits? I'm not saying he creates devil fruits, but what if, dude, it's crazy to build lore on this. So Emu is still freaking pissed. Like, he's like, what do you know about me, old man? And he's like, dude, I've learned from Joy Boy's own words. Because remember, Scopper Gaban has been to the end of the world. Scopper Gaban has unlocked the secrets of the world. And he's like, dude, I have no intention of chasing after a person from the past that I've never met or seen before. And he's fucking dissing Emu, dude. I don't give a fuck about you. The only thing I want to see happen is my captain's dream to come through till the end. And that means, of course, the revival of Joy Boy. So we're like, oh, dude, the king of the pirate, Goldie Roger. And then we get a flashback. Emu, and this is another piece of, what do you say, like, understanding of this chapter. Emu does not want people to know about the D. And the reason people know about the D, if you go back, and dude, I love the continuity with Oda. The first ever One Piece chapter, we get the narrator saying Gold Roger, king of the pirates, left behind this legacy, but they never did mention Gold D Roger, the D in his name. They purposely left that fact out and chose to hide this from the rest of the world, because Imu is so scared of the D. So what we see here is like Rayleigh, Gaban, Broker, Whitebeard, Odin, and Shanks. These are most of the people that understands the secret of the world, and they
Hmm.
know that Luffy is the one that they've been waiting for to carry on the will of Joy Boy, the will of the Sun God.
Yeah, that fits. Those flashes of Rayleigh, Gaban, Odin all tie into that chain of those who've glimpsed the truth. And yeah, the D, Oda loves dropping mysteries in plain sight. Now, if Gaban's words sting Luffy, it's because the story needs him to grow up without losing his heart. He doesn't need to turn cold, but he can't just brush off the stakes anymore. If you talk to the audience, I'd frame it as this is growth, not betrayal of who Luffy is. It's just him recognizing that freedom has a cost, and being the symbol of it means carrying that weight with open eyes.
Exactly. Yeah, totally agreed. So we end off this chapter with Gaban going head to head with Emu, tossing Luffy aside. Get the fuck out of here, Luffy. You've played around, you've fucked around too much by now. So he's like, I don't want to devour you, but and of course he Gaban ends up destroying a part of the tree, the atom tree, and a lot of fan theory is speculating that the reason he did this is so that we can build new ships. Frankie is on Elbaf. We know that the Sunny is built with atom tree wood, right? So this might not be a loss. This might actually provide good wood for them to build a new ship and for the giant pirates to sail with Luffy. So everything ends off with Gaban unleashing 8,000 slash grim throng, and they both fall into the realm of the dead, right? The underworld. And what was also very impressive is this panel. Wait, where is it? This panel right around here. So Luffy is pretty much done for at this point. Usopp, this is his arc, dude. Usopp is so powerful, but he doesn't even know it yet. He has some of the best conquerors hockey, or what is the other hockey called, dude? Like observation hockey. So Usopp is with Nami, and he's like, what did Luffy do that? And Usopp answers. Nami asked if Luffy just did that freaking damage, and Usopp says no, it was somebody else. It was somebody a lot fucking stronger, overwhelmingly strong. And he's of course referencing Gaban, dude. So Usopp has so much potential to unleash his conqueror's hockey, dude, to really cement himself as a conqueror. And it's getting very interesting, not for just Luffy, but for Usopp and Sanji. We already know Zoro is pretty fucking powerful. And then we
Yeah.
end off the chapter with Gaban losing an arm. Luffy noticing that Gaban is pretty much done out. He's broken. And he's like, dude, what? Old man, are you good? So this might be the visual that Luffy needs in order to fucking man the fuck up and take control, take charge. We still don't know where this chapter is ending yet, dude, but this is one of the most important. And dude, I don't know, I just love this chapter. It made me very emotional seeing Gaban like this, but it also gives me hope to what Luffy will become after listening to the encouraging words of Scopper Gaban. What do you think?
I think that this is classic Oda foreshadowing, using pain and tough love to force Luffy to actually think about what it means to carry a dream. It's not about breaking Luffy's spirit, it's about maturing it. So the real weight of being a liberator sets in. Whether that points to Luffy dying or not, I think what matters right now is Oda's highlighting that the dream has consequences, and sometimes growing is the hardest battle of all.
Yeah, totally agreed. Well, that's the end of this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel, and we will
Yeah.
be going over other details of One Piece. I'm going to catch up with the latest anime chapter, put out some videos, but I just wanted to quickly give my thoughts on the newest chapter 1190 of the manga. So let's end it off, dude. Subscribe, leave a like to the video. Can you go ahead and tell my audience to have a good rest of the day? Like, end this shit
Mm-hmm.
off for me, dude. Like, give me a closer. Give me a
Sure.
best closer, bruh.
Right. To everyone listening, thanks for hanging out with us. Whatever you've got going on today, I hope it's kind to you. Take care.